Hello, thanks for joining me again. We are back here at Dishes with Del, and this week we are making gnocchi with beef ragu. It's, you know, a tale as old as time. It's absolutely fantastic. It will take you all day. If you don't enjoy cooking, well then you've probably ended up in a very strange realm of YouTube. And for some reason you're watching my video, but I appreciate that anyway, so nice to see you. But yeah, this one, it's a long one. It will take you most of the day. You know, it really is a labor of love. It's absolutely delicious though, and the end effort is just sensational. I mean, I love it. Can't get enough of it. I'd eat it all the time. It just takes too long to make. So it's a very special occasion that this gets made. As always, let's go off to the ingredients. Here we are at the ingredients. Let's quickly go through them. So we're going to need potatoes for the gnocchi. We'll also need 1 egg and some flour, depending on the weight of these, but we'll cross the bridge when we come to that. And then we've got here, I've got some oxtail. So as you can see, you know, it's got a bone here in the middle, super kind of gelatinous. There's meat around the edge. This is what was available in the supermarket, and it will just be super yum because there's a gelatiny kind of stuff in the bones, and it's all just going to make for quite a thick and really kind of delicious sauce when it all cooks down. But if you couldn't get oxtail, you know, something like beef cheeks would be amazing. You want something that's kind of got like a bit of fat in it because that's all the flavour, and you really, you know, you want something that's kind of a bit tough, or, you know, tougher, so that you can cook it for a long time and it's still going to hold its shape but be super tender by the time it's done. Because this, we're going to break it all up when it's finished, you know, and by that point all that fat and all that gelatin will have come out of the beef. Apologies to any vegetarians who are watching this talking about gelatin. Anyway, yeah, you know, that's them. Use of this whatever you can get. And then for the base, for the ragu, for the tomato sauce, we're going to use some carrot and onion and garlic, and I've also got a little bit of basil. If you had some celery, some leek, you know, any of the kind of classic mirepoix, we could put that in. That's, you know, ideal for this. But we know me, I love to use what I've got in the fridge. I don't always like to go out and buy the extra things that a recipe may or may not need. So just as long as you've got a bit of veg in there, that's great. Obviously, you can put more veg in than you do meat. It will be a little bit cheaper, or you can bulk it out and go a bit further. You know, this, you could put 4 carrots in it, chop them up nice and small, and you'll have a good, you know, a good amount of stuff. And then I've just got some tomatoes chopped up in juice, a bit of tomato paste, like I said, an onion, garlic, salt, pepper, red wine. That's all. A little bit, maybe a little bit of stock. We might make a little bit of stock. But, you know, instead of using the stock cube and you were able to get some made stock at the store, incredible, use that. But again, that's a little bit more expensive. This is a slightly cheaper way to do it, and you can still get the exact same result. So this is quite a long recipe. We're going to try and get through it as quickly as possible. But of course, what it actually takes is time. I can't speed up time. So, you know, this is just about getting it on and getting it working. So what we're going to do first, we're going to bake the potatoes. Now, I've got some salt. This isn't imperative, but it does just help a little bit more. So what I do is I just put a sprinkling of salt on the bottom of the tray. If you had a load of like rock salt that you were able to get your hands on, amazing, because the more kind of salt you put on the bottom, the more moisture that gets drawn out of these, meaning that it's drier, meaning you end up with a better gnocchi. You want to use a good baking potato, something that's dry and fluffy, and that's about it really. So we're just going to poke a few holes in these and pop them on the tray, and they're going to go into the oven at 180, and realistically probably going to take about an hour and a half. We want to make sure that they're fully cooked all the way through and they're nice and dry, and then we'll take them out and we'll make the gnocchi. So let's get these in. Okay, here there are quite a lot of potatoes. So for gnocchi, what the ratios are: 500 grams of potato, 100 grams of flour to 1 egg yolk, salt and pepper, etc. It's always good to have a little bit extra. So I would always do a few more potatoes than what I actually think I might need. And if I have a little bit left over, great, then I can make some potato skins or something delicious that can go in the air fryer. But yeah, I would always say do a few more than you think that you might need, and of course then amend the recipe to what you actually have. But that's the ratios. So these are going to go in 180, hour and a half. See you later. So potatoes are in. Now we'll move on to the beef. We want to get our bits chopped, so let's get that done. Everything's ready here. We've got garlic minced, onions, carrot, basil, and I also got a bit of rosemary from the garden. If you had, if you didn't have fresh basil, you could use dried basil, dry thyme, dry oregano, dry rosemary, all would be amazing in the base. You just kind of want a bit of herby stuff. So this is up to you how you cook it. I'm going to put it in the pressure cooker because it's nice and fast and I have one, or you can put it in the oven. If you were putting this in the oven, I would suggest that you do this part first before you put your potatoes in, so it gets a head start. That way, makes it a little bit quicker. But because I'm going in the pressure cooker, it's probably going to be about the same time as the potatoes being ready. So, up to you. Always longer the better. The longer you cook it, the softer it will be. So we're going to season these up. We're just going to sear it all off in the pan. We're going to then cook all these items, soften them up, a little bit of olive oil, add the tomatoes, tomato paste and the red wine. So let's get this bit cooked. So get your pan nice and hot, season up your beef, and we're going hard sear on all the edges, and then we'll just pop them into, in my case, the dish for the slow cooker. So I've just seasoned these up, salt and pepper on all the sides, nice hot pan, and we're going to sear all around the edges. So as you can see here, we've got really good colour all around the edges. So these are going to go into my pot, and in that same pan, we're just going to saute off all the vegetables. They can all go in at the same time, apart from the basil, and we're just going to cook them. And this is great because it picks up all of the fond left from the meat. And we're just going to put a tiny bit more oil in. Yeah, and then we're just going to saute these off for 5 minutes, and then we'll add the tomato paste. So we'll turn up the heat a little bit and get them going. So the carrots, onions, garlic, rosemary, had about 5 or 10 minutes sweating, because you want to get them nice and soft. And then we're going to add in a good teaspoon and a half of tomato paste, and we're just going to let that cook off for a few minutes. And then we're going to add a glug of red wine, and you just want to let that reduce. And then we're going to add the tomato and a bit of stock, and then we're just going to add it into here, and then I'm going to put it in the pressure cooker. I'm going to add in my basil, cans of tomato. I've just popped some water in the can of tomato, swished it out, pour it in the other one, pour that in too. And that's it. We'll just let that cook for a minute. Then we're going to add it into here, into our beef cheeks, and I'm going to add a little bit of stock. And that's it. And we're just going to cook it. Now, it looks like quite a lot of liquid, you know, we are making ragu, Italian ragu. You know, the meat isn't the main star. It's just, you know, it's in there, it's flavoring it. This is about the actual sauce. You know, this is probably going to be enough for 4, maybe even, yeah, maybe even 6 portions. So, you know, amend it as you wish. And that's it. I'm going to leave it like that, and I'm just going to add it into my beef. Because of course this is going to cook in the cooker for a little bit longer. So this is everything in. You know, as you can see, it is quite thick, not too loose, because we don't want tons of liquid, we do want it to thicken up. But you know, if you took it out the oven and it was still a little bit thin, you could always reduce it, but that's kind of what we're looking for. All the meat covered up, and that's it, ready to go into the pressure cooker. I'm going to put mine in for 2 hours because I want it to be super tender. You know, if you were cooking it in the oven at home, I would say realistically, you want to cook it for probably 4 hours. You want that meat to be so soft. And this is the kind of dish that I'm talking about. You know, you could lay it in here, pop the cover, pop some foil on the top, keep it real tight, and then just bake away. So I'm going to pop this in, and we'll come back in a few hours' time when the gnocchi's ready to be made. Right, so the potatoes have come out of the oven. Now this, like I said before they went in, don't be tempted, you know, if you think that they're not quite done, give them an extra 10 minutes. These things need to be nice and tender in the middle so that it's nice to be able to get out and there's no crunchy bits. Now ideally, if you had a ricer or a mincer, that would be perfect for this job, but I know that most people at home don't have that. So as we take them out, we're just going to mash them with a masher, but we just got to be really gentle because we don't want to start making the starch become sticky. We just want it to be as soft as possible. So we're going to cut these in half, scoop them out, put them in a bowl, and then weigh how much we have, and then we can do the math to work out how much flour and egg we're going to put in. And you want to do this while it's really hot. That's what's really important about this, is that you do it while it's hot. So we'll cut a couple in half and maybe hold them in a tea towel because they will be very warm, and then just scoop out all that nice soft interior. And what you can always do is keep these and make some like crunchy potato skins, which is yum. This is also why it's really important to use a good sort of like baking potato, because you want it to be really, really dry. So we've scooped out all the potato, I've cleared the bench, and we're just going to put a plate on here and work out how much potato we have. Wonderful, 500 grams. No maths for Del, which is always nice because I'm dreadful at maths. So now that's in there, we're just going to give it a really quick mash. You know, not ideal, but like I said, not everybody has a ricer or a mincer at home. We just want to break up them big lumps, but we don't want to work it too much because, like I said, that's going to make the starch start to come out, which we do not want. So we'll go back on the scales. We'll add that 100 grams of flour, and we're going to add that 1 egg yolk. So that's everything in there. We're going to give it a really good season with some salt and some pepper. Don't be scared, you know, you want to make sure it's really well seasoned. And now we're just going to mix it together. And this, again, it's not an exact art. You know, this is a recipe, but there are some times when it just isn't. You know, it comes with making it a lot and knowing the texture of what you're looking for, because if your potatoes are slightly drier, you're gonna have to maybe add a little more egg, or if they're slightly wetter, a little bit more flour. But essentially what you want is a dough to come together. We're gonna work it a little bit, but we don't want to work it too much. We just want to bring it together. Something like that. And that's it, that's the gnocchi dough. And you have to do it when the potatoes are hot, because otherwise it just does not work. So simple. And then I'm just going to divide it into a few blocks so that we can work with each one and then not be too much. So what you want to do is roll it into a big long sausage. These will expand when you put them in the water to cook, so you want to make sure that you roll them fairly thin, something like that. So we'll get each one ready. If it starts to stick to the surface, get a little bit of flour, but be cautious because we don't want to add too much. Get this guy done. See now here, see how this is, we can start to see that there's starch sticking to the bench. What's really good here is if you've got one of these are a great, they're just a great bit of kitchen kit, but if you didn't have one of these hanging around, you could always use your barbecue scraper just to get rid of some of that starchiness which is sticking on the bench. So now I'll roll this guy out, and already this is so much cooler. Also, you probably should give it a little taste, but you know, I think there was enough salt in there. So now we're going to cut them into gnocchi. Now see here, as they start to stick, what's a really good idea is have a little pile of flour and you put this guy at the end of it. And now for the final bit, not necessary, but I like to do it because then it means you get a nice little bit of crust. Get a fork, and you pop it in the flour, sit your potato on the very end, and we're going to roll it. And you see, you get these lines. And that is great because when you cook them, you then can pan fry them and they get a little bit crisp right there. So we'll just get these done. And while we're doing this, we're going to get a pot of water on to boil. Gnocchi. It's a labour of love. It's not a quick fix. Of course, you know, if you really wanted to make the ragu but not the gnocchi, buy the gnocchi. If you don't want the gnocchi, have pasta. It really doesn't matter. But making homemade gnocchi is delicious. If you've got a bit of time, it's so worth it. So you pop it on, you squash it, and you roll it, and you get these great little lines. But what is good is you can make this gnocchi ahead of time, because once you blanch it, you then pop it in some cold iced water to chill, and then we take it out and we cover it in a little bit of olive oil, and you can sit it in the fridge for a couple of days, and then you can just pan fry it whenever you want it. So it is good for that, in the fact that you can make a batch and keep it in the fridge. For all my recipes, you can head to my website, which is in the description box down below. If you're ever looking for some inspiration, it's a great place to head to. I also have a newsletter that comes out each month that keeps you up to date with things that are happening over here at Dishes with Del. Any new things that might be happening or stuff like that. So get on over and sign up. Okay, so our water's boiling and we've given it a good season. And now to cook the gnocchi. So what you want to do is probably do it in a couple of batches, and you're just going to pop them in, and when they come back up to the surface, we'll take them out. But it needs to be boiling. They won't take very long, a couple of minutes, and they'll be back up on the surface, and then we just skim them off. This is where you hope and you pray that you've got the ratios right and they don't turn into mush. So I've got here a pan of cold water, and then I've got some ice ready. So when I take out the first batch, I'm going to add the ice, and then we'll do the last batch, and that's it. The gnocchi are ready. We then just have to wait for the beef, and we'll cook off the gnocchi when it's time to go. The larger your pan surface, the better as well, because obviously you can have a bit more space to deal with. So now here you can see these gnocchi have just popped up to the surface. So we'll give them a minute or so on the surface like that, and then we'll take them out and pop them in the cold water. This is what you do in a restaurant so that we could have lots ready all at once. But you do want to be careful. You know, as soon as we've cooled these down, we are pretty much going to take them out of the water, because otherwise they become waterlogged and then not very nice. Add in the ice so it's nice and cold in there so that they cool down quickly, and all these guys can come out. And then what we're going to do after they've had 5 or so minutes cooling, we'll tip them through a colander and we'll cover them in some oil and sit them back on the tray. These look great. Like I said, sometimes you make this and you think you've got the feeling right and they just turn to mush and you're like, great, all that time and work spent for nothing. But that really comes with sometimes when you've got a wet potato. Now we'll just do the last batch. You want to be gentle when you pick them up off the tray as well. You know, you've already put a lot of time and effort into these. The last thing you want to do is try and shake them off the tray, dump them all in and they all stick together. So do just drop them in. And then the same as the last ones, when they come up to the surface, we'll pop them in the ice water. So the beef is done. I'm going to take this out and I'm going to show you how good it is using a pressure cooker. And here, this is it. So, I mean, as you can see here, it's absolutely falling off the bone. That's the bone that's left. I'm going to pull that off. Take this guy out. I mean, look at it. Look how clean it is. Definitely pressure cookers are worth, you know, they're worth their money. I think they're great. So all you need to do, pull out all the bones. Oh, the good thing about using the oxtail is the gelatinousness of it, because that is what makes the sauce nice and thick and rich. And that's it. That's all the bones out. Now just give it a good smush with your tongs, and this is a good way to feel, are there any more? There's one. And there's one. Incredible though, right? I mean, just nothing left on them. And that's it. That's your deep, rich ragu, ready to go. Now, like I said, this is just the meat. In here, there's loads of the sauce. Oh, and another one of these guys. And you know, this is where you then make it stretch. You know, this is like I said, this is probably enough for 6. This stuff is so rich and so thick and full that we're only going to put a spoonful over the top. So we'll just get that already in there, and we'll just give this a little taste, because I think we'll probably have to put some salt in, as we didn't really add any at the beginning. Oh my god, everything is just so soft and it is so good. So we'll just give this a good season up and we'll just pop it back in here. So now this is just the thickest, most insane ragu, as you can see here. Super meaty, lovely and thick, and that's it. And then we've got the gnocchi here, and we're just going to fry it off. So I'm going to show you what I mean, and we'll serve up a portion and we'll get into this. So we just get a pan on, a little bit of oil, and we're going to fry off some of the gnocchi. When you're frying off the gnocchi, you do want to make sure that your pan is good and hot, because we're not really cooking it, we're just slightly warm, we're just warming it up, but we want to get a nice crisp edge on the gnocchi. So we'll get it nice and hot like that, pop them in. And just let them sit for a minute, because we don't want to turn them before they're fully sealed, because otherwise we'll rip that base off of them. Oh, see, like that one. I probably turned it a little bit too quick. Again, this isn't necessary. This is just the way that I love to do gnocchi. So you get this great crunch. And then once they've got a little bit of colour on them, we're going to add a little knob of butter just into that pan and onto them gnocchi. And they are just going to caramelise beautifully. And we're just going to cook them in that butter for a couple of minutes, and then we're going to serve them up. So we've got a beautiful little caramelised gnocchi. Oh, yum. Just delicious. We'll pop in a little bit of sauce now. A few more little gnocchi on top. Maybe another little nugget of beef. few little sprigs of basil. A little bit of shaky parmesan, don't judge me. And now, just get stuck in. Oh my God. The gnocchi is like a little pillow of joy. The beef and that ragu. So good, so decadent, so rich. If you didn't want to do this and make gnocchi, you could just make this beef ragu and just have it all over pasta. It's insane. It is absolutely delicious. And that little crunch on the gnocchi from where you pan fry it, just for that little bit of texture, insane. So, having said that, I'm gonna go finish what's left of this, and I'll catch you guys next week. See you soon.